let us begin. Shriman Venkatanatharya Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Varyo me Nidhattam Sadahridi Santashriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhunatrana Padapangajarenavaha Ramanija Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedantadeshikam. The first verse from Prabhava Paddhati, the third chapter of Sri Padukasahasram of Sri Vedantadeshika. Vande Tadranganathasya Manyam Padukayor Yugam Unnatanam Avanatir Natanam Yatra Chonnatihi. So we go to verse number 31 in Prabhava Paddhati. So we saw this earlier, 31 and also the 32. So we'll go to 33. So before we go to 33, I shall read the 32nd verse. Samudchapati chetasi thiraniveshita tavaki mukundamani paduke muhurupasana vasana udarka parikarkashanupari parvana kharvitan anartha shatagarbhitan amarasham bhali vibhraman. So we also saw in this one, 33, Vigahante Rangakshiti Pati Padatrayini Sakriti Vahantastvam Antar Vinihita or Vinihata Kuchela Vyatikaraha Madoddamas Tamberama Karataryan Madhujari Parivaha Prankhat Bhramara Mukharam Angana Bhuvam. Now the 34th verse is just a two-line verse, which looks simple. Now, before that, I want to just tell you the parallel ideas of his Purvacharyas, namely Yamunacharya has written a few books called Siddhitrayam, Stotraratnam, Chatushloki, etc. He is the former preceptor to Vedantadeshika, and he said in his Stotraratnam, Tvadiya Charanambuja Dvayam Madiya Murdhanam Alankarishyati. So the Shatari, the representative of the pair of divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha, is to be placed on my head, and they will become the head ornament for me, and along with your divine feet, because they are always connected with the divine feet of the Lord. Now, I want to say in this context a line from Kambaramayanam Tamil. How do you, in this parallel, I want to tell you that how do we become pure? So we already saw Pavitratamam Adriye, the words of Vedantadeshika in this Padukasahasram. So the two divine sandals are the purest, and we understood that the divine feet of Ranganatha are washed by the Lord himself before putting them on the sandals. And therefore, more than the Ganges holy water, more than the divine feet of the Lord, the Padukas are the purest. So now, in this context, Vibhishana requests Rama to put his feet, divine feet, along with, of course, the divine sandals, on his head. கனவியலரக்கன் பின்னே தோன்றிய கடன்மை தீர இளையவர் கவித்த மூலி என்னையும் கவித்தி. These are Kamban's Tamil words. And he says, please place on my head the Paduka which you placed on your brother's head, Bharata's head, so that I may get cleansed of the sin, having been born as the brother of wicked Ravana. That is the beauty here. So by putting the divine sandals on our head, so we become also pure. So here, Kulashekara Alvar, you would have heard about out of the 12 apostles of Sri Vaishnava philosophy, that he considers only the Lord as the king and no other king has been honored by him. He himself was a king and he said, Adi Shudum Arashayallal Arashaha Ennen Mattarasudane. All other kings are not important to me. Only one king, and that king is Lord. So for Kulashekara Alvar, Lord Krishna was the favorite Lord and Lord Rama also. So we know the story. He was always trying to march his army to Srirangam, and he said it openly every day. Gushyate yasya nagare rangayatra dine dine tamaham shirasa vande rajanam kulashekharam. So this is what we saw in the previous verse. Now we go to the 34th verse. Adhidaivatamaapatatsu kalpeshu adhikaram bhajatam pitamahanam abhirakshatu rangabhattuhu esha karuna kachana paduka mayinaha. See, we understand that here Vedantadeshika does not call or address the divine sandals, and he wants to say that as the Lord is beginningless, na adi na antam, and therefore Paduka also has no beginning and no end, and again the span of years that which were gone so far cannot be counted. So limitless number of years have gone, and therefore he says every kalpa or every kalpa koti, new creator is appointed. So many creators were given the post of creation, or the portfolio of creation, adhikaraha, the right to create. The divine sandals have become the presiding deity. Adhidaivatam. Devatanam Daivata. Vedantadeshika mentions it in Bhagavad Dhyana Sopanam, a stotram in the first verse, which has been the transcreation of the Tamil Divya Prabandham called Amalanadipiran by Thirunarayanan. And he said, Antarjyotihi kimapi yaminam anjanam yogadrishtehe chintaratnam sulabhamihanaha siddhi mokshanurupam deenanatha vyasana shamanam daivatanam. So he said daivatanam. So for all the gods, this is the supreme God. Who is that supreme God? Ranganatha. So Ranganatha's divine sandals also are equal to him, and therefore Adhidaivatam. So for all the creators so far the world has seen, so Apatatsu, even those Brahma's creators who will come in the future, Kalpeshu, in future 4 yugas also, kalpeshu adhikaram bhajatam pitamaha. Now pitamaha is a general word meaning grandfather, as all of you know. There are only two people called as Pitamaha. Number one is Lord Brahma, and the other one is Bhishma in Mahabharata. So for their greatness and for their supremacy, and therefore, so Pitamaha refers to Lord Brahma, the god of creation, and so many gods of creation have gone and have come and gone. And therefore, even for those future Brahmas, the presiding deity, the supreme god, is the Paduka, the divine sandals. So what should the divine sandals do for us? Vedantadeshika says, he includes us. Instead of saying, as in the first verse of Prabhava Paddhati, in this third chapter, Vande Tadranganathasya, I worship. So he said, I worship. Now he says, Naha. So Abhirakshatu Naha. The divine sandals should protect us. So they include you and me. Because yes, Vedantadeshika is a celebrated author for all the worlds. He doesn't distinguish between a caste, between two castes, between two religions, between two countries, and so on. So Kachana Karuna Paduka Mayi. So indescribably great Paduka, the divine sandals, he is now personification of sympathy, pity, grace, compassion. And therefore, since Vedantadeshika is worshipping the Lord Ranganatha with his divine sandals at the Sanctum Sanctorum in Srirangam, so Yesha Paduka Mayi Karuna Kachana. This mercy, he calls it as not even Paduka, this mercy, this sympathy, this compassion, this grace, namely indescribably called Paduka Mayi, is being called divine sandals. Whose divine sandals? Rangabhartuhu, of Sri Ranganatha. So the grace of Ranganatha, the compassion of Ranganatha, the benevolence of Ranganatha, so should protect us. Abhirakshatu. It should protect all of us around and also anytime. Anytime, anywhere, so we must be protected by the divine sandals. This is a fervent prayer of Sri Vedantadeshika. So let me recite 34 again. Adhidaivatama patatsu kalpeshvadhikaram bhajatam pitamahanam abhirakshatu rangabharturesha karuna kachana paduka mayinaha. If there is any extra reference I want to tell you, here and we will go to the next one, 35. Dhruvam Indriya Nagashrinkalava Niraya Dwara Nivarana Argalava Anapaya Pada Adhirohaniva Mama Rangesha Vihara Paduketvam. When I was guiding someone with this verse, because you are saying va and va again, as we say in Tamil, so we are inviting the divine sandals to our home. There are many people who worship the divine sandals of their preceptors, and there are many people who invite Ranganatha to their residence, and there is a facility for us in Srirangam to invite Ranganatha on specific days to our house. He will visit us. So that meaning, so we are extending invitation to our mind. So here, the va normally in Sanskrit, as you may all surely know, that it means or, rather, perhaps, otherwise, and so on. But whereas here, it is like a question. It's a question tag. And it also means now here, cha, and. So instead of saying, it is not one of the three, you have three times usage of va, and the beauty is 3 times you add cha. English, it is enough if we add only once and. So at the end of the most part of the sentence. Whereas here, so now he is wondering at the author, Vedantadeshika, is wondering at the greatness of the divine sandals, which has been mentioned as indescribable earlier. Kachana paduka mayi karuna. The divine sandals' grace is indescribable, and the divine sandals are indescribable. And therefore, here you find that the wonder, the surprise, the miracle that the divine sandals perform is in the mind of Lord Vedantadeshika. He says, so he doesn't, now he is addressing the Paduka, Rangesha Vihara Paduke. So by the word Vihara, just now I said we can invite Lord Ranganatha to our home. And therefore, so Rangesha Vihara, Vihara, you can say playing game or moving out, so and so on. So Vihar in some other term means temple also. So within the temple and outside the temple, Lord Ranganatha goes on a spree, and therefore Ranga Isha, so Ranganatha, Vihara Paduke. So the sandals, divine sandals, help him to move out of the temple and go along the specific route prescribed in the Shastras and also around the town of Srirangam. So Rangesha Vihara Paduke. So whose Paduka is this? Mama Rangesha Vihara Paduke. So he is possessive, his possessiveness. So they are mine. Though they belong to the Lord, now they have become mine. Mama. Mama Rangesha, he is my Ranganatha. This is the feeling that all of us must develop by devotion to while we visiting a temple. So he is my Lord. So Rama, in the incarnation, said in the Yuddhakanda of Ramayana, in the 18th canto, Sarga, a Charama Shloka. Sakradeva Prapannaya Tavasmi Tichayachate. So the surrenderer should say to the Lord that I belong to you. So now here Vedantadeshika says, you belong to me. So the mutual feeling must be there. So you are my property and I am your property. So as Jivatma, the individual soul, we are his property, not my soul, individual soul, and also belongings like my physical frame and all my wealth are not mine, they are his. So that feeling must be there in our mind always. So Mama Rangesha Vihara Paduke. So he is my Lord, my Ranganatha. So I think in courts of justice also, we always talk in English as my Lord. So he is my Lord now. Mama Rangesha Vihara Paduke. Now, how are you? Tvam, you, again take the word Mama. Dhruvam, surely. So this word usage gives us the embellishment, namely the Alankara called Utpreksha, the poetic fancy. So Utpreksha unniyate yatra hetvadihi nimnitim vina. This is the definition of an alankara called poetic fancy, imagination of the poet. So it is natural also, practical also. So dhruvam, surely, definitely, mama indriya naga shrinkhala, tvam. So you are the chain, you are the control of the elephant. So generally elephants are chained so that they don't move out freely. Especially a mad elephant will not be allowed to move out. And therefore, here the Padukas, the divine sandals of Paduka, which help Ranganatha to move out. So he doesn't want, the divine sandals do not want an elephant to move out. Who is that elephant? Indriya Naga Shrinkhala. Our sense organs are elephants. We have at least 11 elephants. So Manas is Ekadasha Indriyam. The 11th sense organ is our mind, heart, brain and heart put together. The physical limbs, namely the brain and the heart put together, we call it mind. And we can also have the word buddhi. So our buddhi becomes an elephant. So it goes awry. It runs helter-skelter. It goes in a zigzag way. And therefore, so other sense organs, karmendriyani 5, jnanendriyani 5. So 5 plus 5 plus 1, 11. So indriya naga shrinkhalava. So all 11 elephants are tied up by the chain. What is the chain? The chain is the divine sandals. So naga. Naga can also mean a snake, but here it is elephant. So indriya naga. That is why in Tamil we say nagapambu. I think it's a misnomer, but we say nagapambu. Maybe we mean cobra. So indriya naga shrinkhalava. Shrinkhala in Sanskrit becomes shangili, chain. So indriya naga shrinkhala va. So are you, now he is questioning, are you the chain, are you the control of the elephant, namely my sense organs? Mama indriya naga shrinkhala. Right. So once our sense organs are controlled, that means we do always good deeds, we follow the Shastras, we obey the scriptures, and therefore we say the next one, Nirayadvara Nivarana Argalava Tvam. So are you, why is here question tag? So are you Nirayadvara Nivarana Argala? So Paduka is in feminine gender, Strilinga, and therefore all the words, all the three expressions, Indriya Naga Shinkala, Nirayadvara Nivargala, Nivaranargala, Anapaya Padadhirohini. All these words are in feminine gender, Strilinga Shabda. So Tvam Nirayadvara Nivaranargalava. Now he is a little humorous also. So instead of allowing our sense organs to go RI, AWRY, that is deviating from the right path. So when you have controlled them, then we do always good deeds, and therefore we have no chance to go enter into hell. Niraya means hell. So Dwara is door, as you know, entrance. So Nivarana, stop. So Argala is again what you call the latch with the lock and key. So are you the lock and key which prevents us from entering into the hell? So already our sense organs have become good, all 11. And then we never commit sins. We never do bad deeds. And therefore we have no scope to go even near the hell. And even if you want to see the hell, you are preventing us from seeing the hell. Why should we see the hell? We must understand how great is the suffering there of the souls. And if you want to read in detail the hell, then you can read Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. I am also afraid to read many times the hell description in Srimad Bhagavatam. And for each type of sin, we have different types of hell. And so we will be totally shocked when we look at the hell description. So, Nirayadwara Nivaranargalava. So, are you the latch to bolt the door in order that we will not enter into hell? Then, so that is what we call. So when we totally surrender to the divine sandals, so the steps of surrender are indirectly mentioned, and that is why Vedantadeshika is praised as a very great poet. So Indriya Naga Shrinkhala, so as soon as our sense organs are controlled and we always do good deeds, that means we follow scriptures. So when we follow scriptures, we call it in other words in Sanskrit as Anukulya Sankalpaha. So we decide. Sankalpaha is decision. So we make up our mind to do whatever has been prescribed in the Shastras, starting with the scriptures, then Smritis, Puranas, the ancient lores, Itihasas, Srimad Ramayanam and Srimad Mahabharatam, Bhagavatam, and so on, and later works also. So you have our stoppage of sins. So that will be what we call following good deeds, namely Anukulya Sankalpaha. Anukulya Sankalpaha is one of the steps of surrender that we must first decide and also carry out. It is not the mere decision that will satisfy the Lord. So when we make total surrender to the Lord's divine sandals, we must follow the step called Anukulya Sankalpaha. Now, the next one is Nirayadwara Nivaranargalava. So as soon as we have no chance, see that then there's no chance to enter into the hell, that means we already stopped the bad deeds. So when we stopped the bad deeds, it is in another term, technical term called Pratikulya Varjanam. So Pratikulya Varjanam is actually the second step of the total surrender. Anukulya Sankalpaha is the third step. The first step being helplessness. Helplessness is given by another two terms in Sanskrit called Akinchanyam and Karpanyam. So I feel I'm a miser. Miser in the sense I'm not able to help myself. Self-help is the best help. You might have heard the proverb, but the self-help is not possible. So what do? We depend on the Lord. We completely depend on the Lord. So whatever we do, we must have the thought of God and carry out the deeds. And we must feel that we are all not independent, but dependent on the Lord. So in this second step, Nirayadwara Nivaranargalava, since we have stopped doing bad deeds, that means so our hell is closed for us. The door of the hell is closed for us. And therefore we call it as the second step, namely Pratikulya Varjan. We avoid what has been banned or prohibited in the scriptures. So scriptures say the truth. Okay, that is positive, what we call the order. The ajna issued by the scriptures is Satyam Vada, speak the truth. And again, another positive statement, namely Anukulya Sankalpaha, as I said just now, that is, we try to follow the deeds prescribed by the scriptures. Dharmam Chara, act with righteousness, do charity, perform your duty well. So all these words are positive. So Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. These words are from Taittiriya Upanishad of Krishna Yajurveda. All of you might know. So afterwards, how to say the truth or how not to say the untruth. How should you avoid telling lies? So it gives a categorical statement. It gives a ban. Satyanna pramaditavyam. So never swerve from truth. Never go away from the truth. So don't go away from the path of truth. You must not be mad to follow a wrong path. Satyanna pramaditavyam. Then what a positive statement we had in dharmam chara, these two words. Dharmanna pramaditavyam. Don't ever do any unrighteous action. Then if any action that we want to do is for the welfare of the people around us, to the society, do that. Otherwise, avoid doing anything that brings harm to the society around us. Namely, so that it says, Kushalanna pramaditavyam. There are so many don'ts. Don't do this, don't do that. So you must not do this, you must not do that. So we have a great list in some scriptures, especially in Taittiriya Upanishad of Krishna Yajurveda. And therefore, so the second step, namely, Pratikulya Varjanam is adopted by here Vedantadeshika, indirectly by giving the expression Nirayadvara Nivaranargala. Then you have, so what is the aim then? What is our aim? So while you totally surrender, while all of us totally surrender to the divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha, we have certain aim. What is that aim? Out of the four purposes of human life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all of this you are already familiar with. So already we saw that in the two steps which we have seen in the first half of this verse, namely, so we do our duty properly, faithfully, sincerely, perfectly, fully, completely, and so on. So here, so you have another say artha. So by doing dharma, by doing our duty, we earn money, and by earning money, we fulfill our right desires, karma, and finally aim at a goal called moksha. Moksha is emancipation, beatitude, freedom from birth and death. So we want to escape the cycle of birth and death. So what do we reach finally? Anapaya pada adhirohani. So these divine sandals, this pair of divine sandals, help us to climb to a high place, padam, a post which has no danger. Anapaya, apaya danger, apaya risk, anapaya pada adhirohani. So these divine sandals help us to reach the place called Vaikuntham, otherwise called Paramapadam, otherwise called Anapaya Padam. So what happens? The divine sandals become the ladder to climb up this place, climb up to this place. Anapaya Padadhirogani. So add again cha. So are you the ladder? Make it a question. Tvam he paduke, he rangesha vihara paduke, tvam anapaya padadirohani va. Are you the ladder to the highest place where there is no risk, where there is no calamity, where there is no catastrophe, where there is no danger, all welfare is assured in the place. That place is the highest place. That is God's place. So anapaya padadhirohaniva. So though this just a two-line verse looks simple, so it has got greater meanings. So anapaya padadhirohani shows us the last step of total surrender, namely prapattihi, sharanagatihi, falling at the divine sandals. Falling at the divine sandals. Sashtanga namaskara is to be done so that we will be saved from misery. We will be saved from all troubles of life. So anapaya padadhirohani. So add a cha instead of va. So dhruvam indriya nagashinkhala. Nirayadvara nivaranadgala. Anapaya padadhirohani. Api mama. I can say just say. That's what. Of course, two letters cannot be added. So if you add a cha, that will become what we call a light syllable, and therefore that will not fit in here. So we need a heavy syllable, other a long vowel. Va. Mama rangesha vihara paduke tvam. So let me read for the sake of participants. So dhruvam indriya nagashinkhalava nirayadvara nivaranargalava anapaya padadhirohaniva mama rangesha vihara paduke tvam. So have a virtual thinking that the divine sandals have come to your home, in your place, whether it is Bengaluru or Tamil Nadu or any other place. So when you talk to the divine sandals, when you feel that you are talking to the divine sandals, then you are closer. You are closer. So you become a friend. So Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva. You would have heard about this verse. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva. Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva. Ramanujacharya said in his words, Tvameva Bandhuscha Gurus Tvameva. Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva. Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. So you must have, all of us must have this feeling, namely towards the divine sandal, that it is the mother, it is the father. That means they are the parents. These two divine sandals are our parents. And they are our relatives, close relatives, helpful relatives, well-wishers, suhrutu. And you can take them as friend or teacher, preceptor. So gurustvameva or sakhatvameva, tvameva vidya. By reading the Padukasahasram, we get a lot of knowledge, and therefore Paduka becomes a store of knowledge. Vidya, so wisdom, it becomes a spiritual wisdom. And Dravinam, that should be our property, wealth. Dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam. So Paduka was sarvam to Vedantadeshika. And therefore he could roll out 1008 verses within 1.5 hours. Let us go to 36. Now, Sharanagata Sarthavaha Shilam Shruti Simanta Pada Prasadanarham Adhirangam Upasmahe Murare Mahaniyam Tapaniya Paduke Tvam. So this is 36th verse of the Prabhava Paddhati, the 3rd chapter of Sri Padukasahasram of Sri Vedantadeshika. Now, what is or how is that pair of divine sandals? Now, though we are going to in future see that the divine sandals are very beautiful, because it's a lady, we say beautiful. So if you call them in masculine gender, we will say handsome. So they are attractive, they are charming, because they will have lot of gems. And the gems cannot remain alone. They have to be inlaid in gold. Now, Vedantadeshika gives a preamble, that's a prelude to those descriptions in future, that it looks like gold sandals. So we also buy some objects from the shops with the golden color. Now, any gift, paritoshikam, as we say, or upayanam in Sanskrit, when we go to a wedding and want to gift somebody, so though the gift may be of little value, rather in the sense price may be low, so we want to wrap it with golden paper. The golden color is always attractive. The yellow color, so it's called yellow metal, and that is a costly metal. So now he is saying it's a molten gold, hot gold. Tapaniya paduke. So, oh, golden sandals. Meaning, when we say gold, we call our children also tangam. So we say tanga katti, we say. You are a golden bar because you are my child. So children are always called as gold. So that means they are very valuable, costly. They are to be honored. They are to be respected. They are to be valued. And therefore, tapaniya paduke, since Vedantadeshika loves paduka as his own, say, children, tapaniya paduke, oh, gold sandals. Tapaniya normally meaning heated one. So what is heated? Here, gold. So tapaniya paduke, oh, golden pair of divine sandals. So now he describes. So Tvam, you, that is in Dvitiya Vibhakti, accusative case, what we call in Tamil, Irandam Vetrumai. So you are the leader of those who have surrendered to you. So we talked of surrender, total surrender in the previous verse, and we saw some steps. Karpanyam, we saw Akinchanyam, of course, as the first step. And the second step was Pratikulya Varjanam. The third step was Anukulya Sankalpaha. We stopped at that, so we saw these three steps, and the last destination was Sharanagati or Prapatti, falling at the feet or falling at the divine sandals. And that's what we saw in the 35th verse. So now here you find that, so we have totally surrendered. All the devotees are falling at the divine sandals. So Sharanagata Sarthavaha Shilam. So who is to guide these surrenderers? In fact, we have in our tradition, Sampradaya, a process. What is that process? We go to the goddess Mahalakshmi, seek her protection, and then ask her to recommend our case for moksha towards Sriman Narayana, Lord Sriman Narayana. So that process is now done by, that is what we call Purushakaratvam. It's a technical term again in our tradition. So Purushakaratvam is done by what we call, the recommendation is being forwarded by this Paduka. So Tapaniya Paduka has become Sharanagata Sarthavaha. Sarthavahini. So Sarthavaha is, Sartha meaning the group, Sartha meaning a host group. So there are people, so many people who have surrendered. Sharanagata, so Ganaha, a group of people who surrendered. So Sarthavaha, Vaha is the leader. So one who guides the entire group. That means Paduka is the leader for us. So when Paduka leads us to the Lord's divine feet first, and then Lord Ranganatha in turn, so it has a good character, Sheelam. So we saw also the word Sheelam. So Shila, the innate character, the character in nature, Prakriti Gunaha is called Shila. So nobody can impose any quality on someone, making him a good person. A good person is naturally a good person. He doesn't need any encouragement from other quarters or from outside. He doesn't need support from outside. A person is good because he is good. So Sarthavaha Shilam. So Sharanagata Sarthavaha Shilam Tvam. So, O Paduka, O divine sandals, you are the leader. You have the character, the what you call excellent exemplary character of guiding us. You are the leader to us, all of us who are surrendered, and you are taking us to the divine feet. Because the divine sandals are attached to the divine feet, we say, so the Padukas are guides. So, where are the divine sandals? Adhirangam. So they occupy the place, town called Srirangam. Where? In the temple. Where? At the feet of Ranganatha. So Adhirangam, always occupying, having contact, close contact with the divine feet of Ranganatha of Srirangam. So what do we do? Tvam upasmahe. So we saw the earlier word, upasana, vasana, muhurupasana, vasana, in the same Paddhati, Prabhava Paddhati, just a few verses earlier, we saw the word. So muhurupasana, vasana. So we have the natural attitude, rather latent impression from the previous birth also. Even from our previous birth, we have an inclination to worship the divine sandals, and therefore now we are meditating. Vayam upasmahe. Vayam is understood. So upasmahe is a plural first person verb in present tense. Therefore, we are doing it now at this time, evening time of 2nd June. So Tvam upasmahe. So as you know, again, the proximity of Vedantadeshika in the sanctum sanctorum of Sri Ranganatha's temple. So straight away addressing the sandals. So he says Tvam. So when you talk to someone, you must have that person in front of you. So he is before. That Paduka is before him. The Lord is before him, Ranganatha. So Tvam upasmahe. So we worship you, we meditate upon you, we think of you, we do japam on you. Tvam upasmahe. Where? So Murarehe. So whose Paduka is this? Murarehe Tapaniya Paduka. Mura, again, already we have come across this epithet. Mura is the demon in the form of drum, tabor, and he has to be subdued by Lord Sriman Narayana. Therefore, he is called Murarihi. So, Murarihi becomes in Shakti Vibhakti, genitive case, Murarehe of Sri Ranganatha, Tapaniya Paduke. So, He Murare Tapaniya Paduke, O the gold sandals of Sri Ranganatha, Tvam upasmahe, we meditate upon you. Where are you? Adhirangam. So, residing in Srirangam. And how are you? Sharanagata Sarthavaha Shilam. So you have the natural character of leading us to total surrender at the divine feet of Ranganatha, and therefore we worship you. So how are you again? Mahaniyam. So we already saw Apatatsu Kalpeshu Adhikaram Bhajatam Pitamahanam. That's what we saw earlier. Remember those words in the previous verse? So Apatatsu Kalpeshu. adhikaram bhajatam pitamahanam. So when there are so many creators come and gone in so many kalpas, that is chaturyugas, 4 eons earlier, so all of them know that for their welfare, they depend on the greatness of the divine sandals. So, Mahaniyam. So we are understanding little by little in the forthcoming verses of the Sri Padukasahasram about the Mahaniyam, the greatness. So the rhyming is also there. Mahaniyam, Tapaniya. Niya is there. So we have, of course, Niyam and Niya is there. So you have, of course, you'll find in future so many alliterations, especially occupying the 30th chapter. And we will enjoy those alliterations, what we call gymnastics of words, that is, sounds repeated many times. And there is a beauty called Shabda Alankara, the beauty of the sound, and beauty of the meaning also will be there along with the sound. And here you find that the meaning, we worship you, O Murari's gold sandals, as you are deciding in Srirangam. And you being the leader of the surrendered people. And of course, I didn't tell you the meaning. Shruti Simanta Pada Prasadanarham. It seems as though Paduka, being a lady, adorns other ladies. That is, the ladies helping other ladies. Women helping other women in combing the locks of hair. So in order to beautify other women, so friendly women help. So here the friendly women, the 2 women are the 2 divine sandals. So what happens? So Shruti is scripture. Scripture is also a lady. In Sanskrit, Shruti also is in Strilinga Shabda, feminine gender. So you have Vedaha, Amnayaha, Chandas. Chandas is in Apumsakalinga, the neutral gender. Chandas means scripture. Vedaha is scripture, as all of you know. So Amnayaha, you know. So these are all masculine gender words. Vedaha, Amnayaha. Then you have Shruti is feminine gender. In Sanskrit, you know these 2 words, namely Pustakam. Pustakam, as all of you know, book, which is in neutral gender. And you have the 2 other genders, Kritihi. Kritihi also means book, but it is in feminine gender. Then Granthaha is a book again. So the same, all the 3 words give the same meaning, namely book. So Granthaha is in Pullinga Shabda, Kritihi in Strilinga, and Pustakam in Napumsakalinga. So all of you can understand very easily, that means it's only book. So here it is Shruti is in Strilinga, and Shruti being a lady, so Simanta. You have heard about the word Simanta. It's called, I think, baby shower ceremony in English. Simanta Muhurtam. But here it is, Sima is border, Anta is the end of the border. So the end of the border of Shruti, the lady, is namely Upanishads. So Pada is word. So you can take them as the what we call the beautification of the words of the scriptures, namely ladies, and Prasadanarham. Prasadana is what we call decoration. So the divine sandals are on the top of the Upanishads, the head of the scriptures. And Sima also, you know, the word Sima, border also, it reminds us of the center line parting line of the hair, and it's called the Sima. So Sima is the parting line of the hair on both sides of the head. So on the heads of scriptures, Upanishads are the parting line, and in the parting line is decorated by the presence of the divine sandals. Prasadana Arham. The divine sandals are fit to be a decoration of the words of scriptures from the Upanishads. Therefore, we worship. Sharanag, let me recite again. Sharanagata Sarthavaka Sheelam Shruti Simanta Pada Prasadanargam Adhirangam Upasmahe Murarer Mahaniyam Tapaniya Paduke Tvam. So let me wind up this lecture by reciting the last verse. Jayati Yatiraja Suktihi Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali Taduvayadhana Trivedim Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhuvi Santaha. We started with Santa Sriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhavanatrana Padapankajare Namaha. So we ended again with Santaha, meaning so all of us should become good people. So good people will always be victorious. Jayanti Bhuvi Santaha. Where do we have the victory? In this earth, Bhuvi, in this world. Now, here. So that is the meaning of the wish of Vedantadeshika. That's why he said, Jayati Yatiraja Suktihi. So we quoted, just now we quoted Ramanujacharya's verse as Tvameva Matacha. So with the special word, instead of Sakha, we said Gurus Tvameva. Sakha was replaced by Ramanujacharya with the word Guru. Gurus Tvameva. And therefore, Jayati Yatiraja Suktihi. So let me say the Taniyan of Sri Vedantadeshika. Kavita Arkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Oh, is it possible to give information? Yes. Tamil edition of Paduka is available in the address of Srimad Andavan Ashramam, Alvarpet, Chennai. You can go to the website Srimad Andavan Ashrama, I think .org. There you have the address, phone numbers to contact, and you have the Tamil translations printed. So any questions are welcome, or you can of course give your questions to through email also, and we will meet again on Monday. Today I tell you an incident. 4:45 p.m. By 4:45 p.m. I started typing to the typing WhatsApp message to Vyoma-Samskrta Linguistics Lab, members of staff, especially Lakshman Raghuram and Venkata Subramanian Swamis, that because of the power cut in Srirangam today in our area, we may not be able to conduct the session of Padukasahasram. And I prayed to Andal, Goda Devi, and again, normally I recite Gopala Vimshati, the prayer on Lord Krishna by Vedantadeshika, and I got the power cut within 5 minutes. Power restored within 5 minutes. So, which is a good English translation. So the translation into English is beautifully given with the references to parallel ideas by Kuppaswamy Shastri Research Institute, KSRI, Mylapore. You also may have website on this KSRI. And Venkatesubramaniam Swami was gracious enough to give me a gift of this Padukasahasram translated into English. Thanks to many people who have conveyed their message of gratitude. So let me stop sharing the file, and your question and answers, your questions can be reserved for the next session. Thank you so much. Dhanyavada.